Oh, I wonder what Patriots fans still think about Tom now after winning a ring. Didn't have to worry about it for 2 decades. All right, there's a report in the Northeast that the team doing their due diligence on top of the quarterback prospects in the draft that includes guys like extremely unlikely to be there when they make that first pick. Wonder how that makes Cam Newton feel. Been an interesting couple of weeks for him on social media. The Cam experiment in New England started off well, but by the end of the season, it was evident he wasn't anywhere near the MVP that we came to know and love during his time in Carolina. Here's what the depth chart looks like for Josh McDaniels and Bill Belichick. Again, Cam Newton, Jarrett Stidham, who they took in the second round, and of course the veteran Brian Hoyer there. Not exactly lighting it up when we're talking about quarterbacks, especially in that division in the AFC East. All right, let's bring in Tyler Sullivan here from the Boston area. Of course, knows a thing or two about the Patriots. So what are we to make of the developments on the scouting of these top quarterback prospects, and what more can you tell us?
Yeah, I think it's pretty interesting, but overall not too surprising. I mean, if you look at the Patriots' history over these last few drafts, they've done their due diligence on all of these premier quarterbacks, and I'm sure they're doing it like The Athletic is reporting, like they are doing with Trevor Lawrence. You know, it's one of those scenarios where the Patriots are so meticulous that they are going to have every contingency plan possible. We obviously know that Trevor Lawrence is going to be drafted by the Jacksonville Jaguars, but if something unforeseen happens, they will have a plan in place to try to go after it. And the best thing that I can point to is the 2018 NFL draft. Had things gone a little bit differently, there was a lot of chatter that the Patriots were going to try to vault up to the number 2 overall pick and select Baker Mayfield had the Cleveland Browns not taken him with that top overall pick. They had 2 first-round picks that year, so it was conceivable that maybe they talked to New York and maybe get up there, and that was the same year also that they were really looking at Lamar Jackson as well. So they were really leaving no stone unturned in terms of the quarterback market, and that's the same thing here. It's getting a little bit more pumped just because there is such a drastic need at the position for them this year, and they really are looking for that next guy post Tom Brady, post possibly Cam Newton. So to me, I think that they're just looking at it from a standpoint of if we are able to climb up a little bit higher, if we are maybe able to talk to a team like the Atlanta Falcons at number 4 and maybe go after a guy like Mac Jones out of Alabama, a guy who has a lot of, traits that are similar to Tom Brady. Obviously, we know the connection between Nick Saban and Bill Belichick. This is a name that's going to be talked about a ton leading up to the draft. Maybe a team like Atlanta, who's sitting at the number 4 overall pick, feels like they want to still try to contend with Matt Ryan under center and not address the quarterback of the future right now. Maybe you throw 15, maybe you throw Stephon Gilmore, and you create a nice package that could maybe get you up that high. So to me, it's really just doing your homework on those quarterbacks and seeing who maybe falls to that middle of the top 5 there and see if you can move up.
All right, there are certainly several what-if scenarios. Don't count any of those things out, especially when it comes to the hoodie. What about getting back to Cam Newton, whether they go with the quarterback route in the draft or not, Tyler? What do we think about the chances that we see Cam Newton in some capacity in a New England uniform in 2021?
I would say it's relatively high, and I think a lot of people around New England don't want to hear that. I think that what they saw over the course of the season with Cam Newton is particularly as it went on, it didn't leave much to be desired. But there's one thing that you need to really kind of focus in on as it relates to Cam Newton's first year in New England. Bill Belichick never wavered in his support of Cam Newton, which was noteworthy. I mean, you had a guy in Jarrett Stidham, a highly drafted guy, a guy that was groomed behind Tom Brady for a year, someone who you would think for a team that's rebuilding would want to at least see what he looks like as a starter with a week of preparation. And yes, there were some times where Cam Newton was benched for Jarrett Stidham, but there was never that full change at the quarterback position. Belichick standing, feverishly behind Cam Newton throughout the year, which I think is noteworthy. And I've been noting it on CBSSports.com for a while now that, you have to take focus of that loyalty that Belichick gave Newton. And it wouldn't be surprising if you see it bleed over into the offseason and into the 2021 season. And there was a report over the weekend, I believe by the Boston Globe, that said behind the scenes, Belichick has been continuing to sing Cam Newton's praises and really liked what he put together, albeit during a difficult season in 2020 when there was no preseason. He was signed very late in the offseason. So I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility here if New England strikes out on the other free agent quarterbacks, maybe or unable to make a trade for a Jimmy Garoppolo or a Marcus Mariota or something along those lines. You could absolutely see them maybe try to address the quarterback position at the draft somewhere, but also bring back Cam Newton after a year of experience in the system. And Belichick seems to like him. And on Cam Newton's side of things, there's incentive for him to come back as well, because that's probably his best chance to start again in 2021.
And he was dealing with the whole COVID thing. So it's just a weird year all around for New England, not used to seeing teams below them leapfrog them like a Miami, like a Buffalo. So given all of that, including the opt-outs, by the way, give me the Patriots' biggest needs here as we head into the draft.
Well, first and foremost, like we've been talking about, you got to address the quarterback position in one way, shape, or form. Prior to the start of free agency, preferably, I wrote a story about this over the weekend as well. The biggest need, I think, is wide receiver or pass-catching help. You can throw tight end in there as well. But if you're going to the negotiating table with a guy like Chris Godwin, Allen Robinson, Juju Smith-Schuster, all these big names that we're talking about, Hunter Henry being another one, they're going to want to know who the quarterback is before they sign with them. That's going to be the biggest thing for them on top of the contract and the security and all that. They're going to want to know who's throwing them the football, or at least what the plan is. So you need the wide receivers, the pass-catching help. That's a huge need on this team, so apparent last year. But all of those guys that can help fix that problem need to know who's the quarterback. So really the first shoe to drop needs to be the quarterback in some way, shape, or form, which is kind of tricky because obviously the NFL draft is after free agency, so things could get a little dicey there with New England. But on the defensive side of the ball, the secondary is relatively solid. They're going to have to figure out what's going on with Stephon Gilmore. JLC reporting over the weekend that a lot of GMs around the league believe that a trade of Stephon Gilmore is inevitable. That's something that's going to be relatively interesting to see what happens over the course of the offseason. But to me, it's the front seven on the defensive side of the ball. And I do think it's interesting. We're coming off the news yesterday that Kyle Van Noy is either going to be released or traded by the Miami Dolphins. A lot of history there. I saw the McCourties yesterday put a bunch of eye emojis out there when the news was getting out. So very curious to see what happens with Kyle Van Noy, and I wonder if a reunion after a one-year departure is in the works.
I will be keeping tabs, and Tyler will be all over that. Tyler, certainly appreciate it. Thanks for the time. As always, also catch the Pick Six podcast. Host Will Brinson and the Super Friends obviously covering all the things in the NFL, including the NFL's top 100 free agents in 2021. It's dominated by Dak Prescott, those top flight wide receivers we were just talking about with Tyler, and franchise tag candidates.
Want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis. No yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.